Hi everyone. Wanted to share my story of how I went from Ismailism to Sunni Islam. I thought it was an interesting story. So I was born as an Ismaili. Ismailis are a sect of Islam, although some people consider them not to be Muslim because some of the beliefs are a little bit more quite different. Ismailis are Shias. They believe that they are a sect of Shia. Shias are the followers of Ali. There was a split between Sunni and Shia in Islam. Sunnis go by the Sunnah, and Shias go by the teachings of Ali, and they consider him to be the rightful inheritor of Islamic guidance after Prophet Muhammad. So I was Ismaili. I grew up as an Ismaili. Ismailis follow the Aga Khan, which literally means the King of Kings. He is the spiritual leader. They call him Mola Bapa, which means like spiritual father. And he is, the current Imam. He's the current Imam of the Ismailis, which is probably about 10 million Ismailis in the world. Maybe that number is wrong. So Ismailis look to him for spiritual guidance, and they pray to him as an intercessor between them and Allah, to get their prayers answered. And he's the day-to-day guide for Ismailis. He decides, like the current form of the prayer, which is called the Ismaili Holy Dua, is decided by the Aga Khan. It's said 3 times a day. In contrast to the salah or the namaz that Sunnis do 5 times a day. The Holy Dua is 6 parts. It consists of different things, including the names of all of the Ismaili Imams. So Shias believe, Ithna Shari, like the 12ers, they believe in 12 Imams. The 12th one is Imam al-Mahdi, who is in hiding right now. He disappeared into a cave. Ismailis continue. They don't stop at number 12. They continue down to 49. And the current one, Shah Karim al-Husseini, he is the current Imam for all of the Ismailis. Now, as I was saying, he decides just about everything in Ismailism. He's a leader. 12.5%, which is 1/8 of all gross income, goes to him directly, which he uses for his different charitable ventures and for his different things for the Jamaat, which is the community. For example, I was born in Aga Khan Hospital in Nairobi, Kenya. I went to Aga Khan primary school, and I've heard that in Pakistan some of the best medical schools are run by Aga Khan, right? So there's no doubt the Ismaili community does a lot of charitable work, and this is where some of that money goes to. So about the actual religion, they, like I said, they don't call the mosques exactly. They call them Jamaat Khanas. And when you go there, you go in the morning, early in the morning, when it's still dark, 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock, I forget exactly what time. And they have like some, 10 to 30 minutes of meditation, which you can go for. You don't have to. And then after that, they have the prayer, the Ismaili Holy Dua. They have ginans, which are like holy songs they sing. And unlike Sunnis, they have the men and women sitting side by side with a bit of a partition in between. Whereas with Sunni mosques, you'd find the men in the front and the women at the back. Ismailis are definitely more progressive and more modern. There's no concept of jihad. They don't really have a concept of zakat. Like I said, there's dasond, which is the 12.5% you pay directly to the Imam, Aga Khan, and he uses that for different, needs. And the other thing about the Ismaili rituals, a lot of the acts of worship are centered around Aga Khan. So when you pray, you say Ya Ali tu Rahem Kar, Ya Mola tu Fazal Kar. You're saying, "Oh Ali," meaning Aga Khan. Even they call him Ali because he's a descendant of Ali, or he's a supposed descendant of Ali. You're asking him to have mercy on you, to bless you. And the way that works is, I once asked my dad, like I was confused as a kid. Why is it that we pray to Mola Bapa and we also pray to Allah? Because there's some prayers directed to Allah and there's some directed to Aga Khan. And this was when I started reading the Quran for the first time, and I was like confused about some things. And or maybe this is even before I read the Quran. I think this is even before I read the Quran. This is just like confusion. Like, why do we pray to two different like things, right? And he told me, like, Allah is like the sun. If you look directly at the sun, you'll blind yourself. So you need sunglasses. And Aga Khan, he's sunglasses. He's the one that, he filters the harsh glare of the sun. Which to me, it goes against the Quran, because in the Quran it says that, Allah says that you believe in me, call on me, I'm closer to you than your jugular vein. So it seems to me to go against the Quran to say that you should pray to an intercessor, and this is exactly what the non-Muslims at the time of Prophet Muhammad used to do. They believed in Allah, and it says that in the Quran. If you ask them, who created the heavens and the earth, they'll say Allah. So they believed in Allah, who was the high god of the Arabs, and they also believed in lower gods, Lat, Manat, Uzza. These were the daughters of Allah. These are the ones they used to pray for intercession to. And by the way, the same idea exists also in different other places in the world. For example, the Romans, the high god was Jupiter, and they had much lesser gods that would deal with, day-to-day issues. Whereas, the high god, he didn't have time for human beings. Right? He was too high. And same thing with the Greeks. You have Zeus, who is the high god, and then you have much lesser, demigods and daemons and different entities that are much higher and lower on the ranks that will actually, help you in your day-to-day life. So, humanity seems to do this a lot, where we have this idea, we create this idea of a god, a high god, and then we have lower gods. And if it's not lower gods, then it's some sort of saints or some sort of, peer or some sort of holy men that, that get us to that higher god. Because the higher god is busy. So the same idea in Ismailism, I guess. If you go by the actual teachings, as far as I know, Aga Khan is considered the light of Allah, the nur of Allah. The teaching says that Aga Khan, he hears your prayers, right? Just like God does. So, I challenged my dad once, and I said, well, are you saying, and this is when I started reading the Quran now, and I was starting to be a little bit skeptical about, Ismailism. And I said, are you saying he knows we're talking about him right now? Like, we're having this, I said, if I call him on the phone and I say, what's my name? He's going to know that, yeah, you're Samir. I know, you were just talking about me, right? Yeah, you're being a little bit skeptical. I think you're a little bit lacking in faith, right? So, yeah, so I was skeptical about this. It didn't make sense to me. So I had a little bit of, being a little bit rational back then even, and I was like, this is not adding up. The Quran says, pray to Allah. And then I started, the Quran itself, to me, I'm sorry to say, my fellow Ismaili friends, but it doesn't seem to connect with the tenets of Ismailism. I can never make sense of how the Quran and Ismailism connect, because Ismailism is all about praying to Aga Khan, going through Aga Khan for all acts of worship, whereas the Quran is like, well, pray to Allah directly. Allah is a God. You don't need to do this. The people before you, they were destroyed because they used to pray to other people that can't hear them. It even says, do these people you pray to hear you? Do they answer you? And then it talks about how people that pray to and worship Jesus would be like, no, I have nothing to do with them. I didn't tell them to worship me, whatever. So this is Ismailism, and this was my disconnect. When I started to read the Quran, I was like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense to me, and this doesn't add up with what I know about Ismailism. And when I started to go to the Ismaili, I was still going to Ismaili Jamaat Khana, I started to feel more and more weird about it. Like, how is it that, when I'm praying, I'm bowing down? I don't know why I picked on this thing, but I felt like, I'm not bowing down all the way. Whereas with the Islamic Salah, you put your whole entire head on the ground, and it feels better, it feels good. Whereas the Ismaili prayer, you just kind of like bend down a little bit, and then you have the men and women together in the same place. And, in a way, the type of like a strict fundamentalism, appeals to people, and it appealed to me in a sense that women and men are segregated, and, this is better, this is more pure. I would hear people make comments like, oh, when I go to Khane, it's distracting, the girls are distracting, and I'd be like, yeah, see, I knew it. This is why in the mosque, you got the women behind and the men in the front. Like, that's because, we don't want them bending down, and, we're going to be distracted. I mean, this and that. Not like, well, what about the women? The women are going to be distracted too, like looking at you bending down in front of them. Don't you think? Like, women have, like, women get attracted too to these things, right? But anyways, I guess that's where I would differ with Islamic jurisprudence about putting women behind. obviously I don't see the point. So Ismailism is very modern. Aga Khan, he never talks about heaven and hell. I never ever heard him talk about heaven and hell. When you ask Ismailis, common Ismailis, they don't really say much about it. They don't know much about heaven and hell. I don't know what they believe. Like, everybody has a different opinion, and Aga Khan himself doesn't talk about heaven and hell. I never heard him talk about heaven and hell as an Ismaili for so many years. When I asked my dad, I don't know, my dad was kind of skeptical about heaven and hell and hereafter in general anyways, so he didn't have an opinion. Some people told me that one of the older Ismailis I know told me that, yeah, when they were young, the preachers used to talk about hell and they used to talk about heaven. But Aga Khan himself never talks about it. He talks about my beloved spiritual children. It's very important for me that you come to Jamaat Khana, that you say your prayers. I think that you're a good person. I don't really remember too much, but for sure I remember your education is important. Your education is important. Your education is important. I remember that volunteering is important. Being a good member of society is important. I don't remember too much more about what Aga Khan taught, but I do know that he never talked about heaven and hell, which confused me because the entire thesis of the Quran is heaven and hell, is hereafter, is day of judgment, is like fearing God. And if you look at the Sunni hadith, it's all about the hereafter. It's all about the next life. It has nothing to do, there's some things to do with this life, but the entire emphasis of Islam is worship one God and don't make any shirk, which is, making partners with God, praying to anybody else. And it's all about hereafter. But Ismailism, like I said, it's more modern. I'd say it's easier to practice because it doesn't put too many restrictions on you in terms of like, don't take a mortgage and don't do this and can't listen to music. Like some followers of Islam believe music is haram, forbidden. So there's still some good values there, but the religion itself is much more modern and easy to follow. What else can I say about Ismailism and my journey from Ismailism? So Sunnism appealed to me a lot. I felt it was a good, clean, straightforward. It's very, very straightforward, Sunni Islam, compared to any other sect, I'd say. It's just like, pray, you go to the mosque, there's nothing there. It's just an empty hall and you just say your prayers. You go home. The nikah ceremony, the wedding ceremony is very, very simple. You got to have 2 witnesses. That's it. You make your ijab and kabul. And whereas you see a lot more rituals and stuff in Ismailism, not that it's a bad thing, and I don't have anything against Ismailism. Honestly, Ismailism, like I said, I don't think it's bad for humanity in a sense because it's very straightforward. I do feel like Aga Khan, I don't think he answers anybody's prayers. I don't believe he knows anything, any knowledge of the unseen. I don't think he actually has any ability to help anyone when they die in any way whatsoever. But then again, I'm now an atheist. I don't believe in any religion, and I don't think there's any such truth to any claim. So I don't know if it really matters, which religion you follow. But for sure, if you're an Ismaili, your life will be not as difficult as if you're a strict Sunni Muslim. The Ismaili religion is much easier to follow and much less difficult. What else can I say? I used to think that Ismailism, I used to think as a Sunni that Ismailism is completely garbage and it's not based on has no real foundation for truth whatsoever. But now that I have left Islam and I've become more critical about the Islamic texts and I've looked into it a little bit more, I realized that the entire hadith literature itself is not based on any serious, solid foundation. And so, whether it comes to Ismailism or some other sect, there could be some basis for validity in their sect as compared to the Salafi or the Sufi or any other sect, because the reality is it's very hard to know for sure what it is that actually Prophet Muhammad actually said, because there's a 200-year gap between when he said it and when it was written down. And between that time, we have a bunch of books like Imam Malik's Muwatta, and we don't really have the earliest versions of it. And anyways, I'm getting off topic. I don't want to talk about that too much. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, my little journey from Ismailism to Sunni Islam. How is life as an Ismaili? As an Ismaili, like I said, I felt it was a very watered down version of Islam. Doesn't have much to do really. And as a Sunni, I felt the belief in God in a much more stronger way, because there's more ritual, I guess, that you have to do more often, like praying 5 times a day and stuff, and having to make all these sacrifices. Women wear hijab. The community, especially in Canada, the Sunni community, you feel like you're so different from everybody else, but yet you have that connection, I guess. And I'm sure Ismailis have that too, but these are just what I experienced, as a Sunni. I felt like the belief in God was stronger compared to like Ismailism. I don't know. Like, like I said, I don't think that Sunnism is necessarily more correct than Ismailism. At least based on the Quran, I feel like Sunnism is closer to the Quran. But like I said, when it comes to the Hadith literature, there's so many problems, and so who knows, like, you know, which one is actually correct. In fact, probably none of them is correct. They're all made up, right? And you know, in a way, you know, people benefit. You have to look and see who's benefiting from what, from the religion, right? In terms of Ismailism, you know, there's a huge group of people that benefits from the religion in terms of the higher ranks of the, you know, the people in the community. The actual Aga Khan himself benefits immensely from this, you know, what I feel is a bit of a scam, because you're praying to him for all these things and he's not going to help you with anything. So I mean, what's the point, you know? Better to just follow your intuition and your goodness inside you. And, you know, maybe secular humanism is a better option than any of these religions. Even the more, you know, more progressive versions, I feel like it is kind of pointless, and maybe we gotta get rid of religion altogether and live our lives, you know, freely. Anyways, thanks for watching. Take care, and bye.